Okay, hey everyone, my name is Vince and I am a Purple Heart veteran, and this is my story on how I received the Purple Heart. I gotta put a little asterisk in this. I do feel a bit silly about making the video, and part of that is because I compare my wounds to some of the other men in my unit, you know, Sergeant Pepper, Sergeant Jackson, who lost his life, and I just feel like I ain't shit, you know, just to put it straight. But, you know, recently my mother lost her husband in a motorcycle accident, and when life is taken short and quickly and abruptly, it makes you reflect. And for me as a parent, I look at my two girls and I feel like if for whatever reason I get pulled early, that I leave them with some of my stories and some of the lessons and whatnot of my life, what I've been through. So this one being a significant one to me, I said, well, okay, I'm gonna make a video on it. So I was deployed to OIF, Operation Iraqi Freedom, in August of 2003 as a first set of reinforcements. So I wasn't with my unit on the initial invasion. I was the first set of new boots on the ground. I was deployed with the 1st Armored Division. They were stationed out in Gießen, Germany, and my unit was the 16th Engineer Battalion in Catamounts, and we were a combat engineer unit. And mainly our job during the deployment, the number one thing was route clearance. But on top of route clearance, we did a lot of traffic checkpoints, TCPs, and patrols, and just and a shit ton of guard duty, just a ton of guard duty. So that was mainly what I did. I was a driver within that unit, so I was assigned a M113, which is kind of like a small tank, and my job was to keep the maintenance on it, make sure it was stocked and ready to go, drive us down these routes just to make sure it's clear of IEDs, and if we found one, we would take care of it, and you know, if we didn't, we'd go about our day. And that's pretty much how the majority of my deployment looked. It was a lot of patrol, it was a lot of route clearance, it was a lot of guard duty, and it stayed like that until April of 2004, when the 1st Armored Division was extended. There was a changeover of power. We were releasing governmental power to the Iraqi government. During that time, there was a cleric named Muqtada al-Sadr. He had this uprising. Basically, he declared jihad on the US Army, or the coalition forces, because it was more than just the US Army. He declared jihad on the coalition forces because we canceled his newspaper. Anyways, so his army, the Mahdi army, or Mahdi army, they were just setting up shop in all these little cities, Bakra, Karbala, Fallujah, Mosul. And during that time, they were like occupying police stations and just raising hell. We got assigned to go down to Karbala, which is, if you're not familiar with, this very holy city, very Shiite city in Baghdad. In Iraq. It's actually where the Nebuchadnezzar is, the old Babylon, if you're interested in the history, but whatever. Anyways, so we got redeployed from Baghdad to Karbala to, you know, basically take out this army. They were occupying police stations and just, you know, causing a big havoc down there. And the next 6 weeks for me was kind of a blur. We were seeing combat pretty much consistently, making contact with enemy forces, firefights every day. And because I was a driver, my duties were extended a little bit further than the average, you know, foot soldier, so to speak, because when we got back to the units, I had to still do maintenance and prep the vehicle and make sure everything was mission ready, while, you know, the other guys in the team were just able to go get some sleep. So I was a little behind on sleep. We were just back to back to back, you know, every day going out, making contact. We got assigned to a brigade of tankers. Basically what they did is they created this task force where it was us, the engineers, the infantry, and the tankers. We would all line up and we would go every day, basically go out and pick a fight is pretty much what we're doing. If you're familiar with tankers, you know, they have the Abrams, beautiful big tanks, you know, they got 120 Mike, big old cannon on that thing. And the infantry had the Bradleys, which still had the 25 Mike, which is still a very large gun. And we had both of these vehicles were able to, you know, the Bradleys and the Abrams were able to hatch up, to button down where no visible soldier could be seen, right? And we were in the 113, which was, I think, originally an amphibious vehicle. But anyways, the thing about the 113s, they're a lot smaller than the Bradleys and the Abrams, and you can't button up. There's no way to shoot a weapon from inside the vehicle. You have to expose yourself to be able to fire your gun. So that being said, us being a smaller vehicle with a smaller gun and an open hatch, we were the prime target. We got picked on a lot by IEDs and snipers and everything else, you know, which makes sense. You know, we're the most vulnerable part of the convoy. If anyone has seen the Christopher Titus special, he's a comedian, but he did a special on Sergeant Pepper. Sergeant Pepper was in my unit during this operation, and he was hit with an RPG on his track vehicle, and the injuries from that blast ended up taking his eyes out, and he lost his hands. And so anyways, that skit or whatever Titus did was based upon this series of missions in Karbala. Okay, so, and this is, again, it's all, you know, it's real blurry, real murky, but what I remember was the day previous we had made contact with an enemy position. There was a traffic circle that we were to occupy, and the day before there had been a sniper in that position, and one of the guys in our unit, Sergeant Morales, took a sniper hit to the head, but it was one of those, like, it was a Forrest Gump shot. It literally was like he was incredibly lucky. It went into the helmet, and then it changed the slope of its trajectory. Rather than going into the skull, kind of grazed the back of his skull. I don't remember where the bullet landed, but man, he was lucky on that one. So that happened like the day before. We had to go back out to that traffic circle, and I don't remember why we had to guard this traffic circle, but for some reason we had to make sure that any enemies coming into this traffic circle were dealt with. And so we had an area that we had to specifically watch. It had a couple alleys, you know, and that was our area, and we had to guard it till, you know, we were told not to guard it. The problem was that there was that sniper in that area. So we had to, and any of you guys that have had military training, you know that if you're in a, you know, rule number one, if you're in a sniper area, get the hell out, right? So, but we couldn't do that because of, you know, we had to hold this line, this guard duty. So we're sitting there in this traffic circle holding guard duty, and I seem to remember we were there for maybe 6-8 hours, something like that. And the whole time we're just taking rounds from this sniper. It's not like consistently, right? Because he doesn't want to give away his position. But, you know, every now and then you would hear like a little zoop, bing, and sniper round would come chiseling down, barreling down to our position. So what I remember is, so I was a driver, so I was in my driver's hatch, and my TC, tank commander, he was the guy that had to man the 50 cal. The poor guy, he was, you know, when you open up the hatch, it's made out of steel, you know, I don't know how thick it is, but it's made out of steel, it can take rounds. So he has the hatch open, and he's just kind of like sitting there with his head like turtled into his flak vest, you know, trying not to get hit from the sniper behind us. It was just chaos. I just remember like every now and then someone would be like, contact left 300 meters, and everybody would swivel their guns to that side and pop, 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 and fire off rounds, you know, just walls of bullets would just spray down range. So one of my jobs was to help reload the 50 cal. Whenever he would, you know, finish with his ammo can, I would have to bust open the ammo can, take it out of the crate, bust the ammo can open, and get it ready to feed for the next rounds. And I would just hand it up to him from underneath. And this particular one, there was like, I don't remember where the contact came from, but there was some contact that came in. Everybody steered, bunch of firing downrange, ta 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 ta. And so I was getting ready to grab the ammo can and hand it up to him. And he had finished firing, and I had reached down, and I remember it so clear. I hear this like zip twing, and I reached down, and I had thought that one of his shells had fallen down my flak vest, because I just felt this burning in my back, right? Right, like Forrest Gump. Something bit me, something burned me. So I was like, so I'd reach down to grab the ammo can, zip twing, and then just burning. And so I reached back into my flak vest to pull out the round. There was no round. When I pulled my hand out, it was full of blood. And that's when kind of the realization hit me, like, oh shit, you know, I've been hit with something, you know. So I radio to my TC, hey, I've been hit, but I'm okay. And he radios for the medic. And I don't know why I didn't get a demotion for this. I should have. But I jumped on the radio and I canceled the medic. And because, you know, we're in a sniper zone, the medic would have to get out, go from his vehicle to my vehicle, which put him in danger. And to me, you know, I felt like I could control the bleeding, but I was a private and I was an idiot. And so, of course, the tank commander, you know, overruled me, and the medic came. Yeah, and I remember before the medic got there, you know, just the training kicked in. I popped my gauze, opened up my gauze, stuck it in, and was working on wrapping up my hand. What had happened is the sniper round came down into my driver's hatch. The round fractured off the hatch and just turned into shrapnel. So I was down kind of like this when that happened, and my hand, I don't remember how it was both of my hands. My hands were like somewhere around, you know, chest level. And so they took a bunch of shrapnel, and I had a bunch of shrapnel like in the back of my neck and all the way down into my flak vest. And it kind of went up my neck into the back of my head. So I was doing everything I could to control the bleeding, but also at the same time, I'm like, well, we got to reload the 50 cal. So, you know, here I am trying to get rounds back up to the sergeant while wrapping gauze and stuff. Anyways, the medic gets in, and poor Doc, he was like, just so shaken up. I just remember him like, oh, and you know, so, but he did a great job. He wrapped me up, and I was still able to use my hands. I still had to drive. I still had to reload. So there's, you know, I still need to be combat effective. And so he wraps me up, goes back to his vehicle, and we finished the day off there. And we went back to base afterwards, because our base wasn't in the battlefield. It was located outside the city. So we went back to the base. You know, I finished up with the track, make sure I reload everything, make sure we restocked for the next mission. And then I go into the dock, the medical tent, to get looked at. And, you know, they go in and they dig out what they could, and, you know, stitch me up pretty good. And I remember my lieutenant came in at that point, and he's asked me what happened, and I was like, well, okay, LT, this is what happened. I kind of break it down. He goes, oh, okay, all right, sounds good, got it. And then he left, and Purple Heart wasn't even on my radar. I didn't even think about it until the award came in. I remember the award came in. We finished our combat tour. The unit did great. We didn't lose anybody, thank goodness. We didn't lose anybody, and we, you know, redeployed, wrapped it up, and finally, I think it was like maybe 2 months later, they pulled us out of there. We had a bunch of other missions. Maybe I'll cover those at a different time. But once we got back to Germany, they had an award ceremony, and they gave me an ARCOM, which is a Army Commendation Medal, Purple Heart, and I got it then. And so, yeah, so that's the story on how I received my Purple Heart. Really, it's just, you know, flesh wound. I've been pretty fortunate that it didn't cause me any significant injury or disability. You know, I know there's guys out there, lost arms, lost legs, men that lost their lives, you know, so all full credit to those men and women that served and gave those sacrifices. Anyhow, okay, I'm gonna wrap it up here. There's my story.